Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and today I'm going to be doing another Vets How-To. In this video, I'm going to do something a little different than what I normally do. I'm going to be doing a video on painting Warmachine models, particularly Cygnar Stormblades. These are models that I basically think are one of the iconic troop choices of Cygnar. Every time I think the word Cygnar in Warmachine, I think gun mages, long gunners, and Stormblades. By far, the Stormblades are probably the most prominent aside from the gun mages, primarily because they have more stuff built around them. The gun mage have a warcaster that was a gun mage. The Stormblades have their own warjack. So if there's anything you go off of with any type of Warmachine unit, I always pick at least a set of Stormblades, because you can never go wrong, and it's not really a Cygnar army in my opinion if you don't have one of the three. And so we're going to be going over how I paint Stormblades, and this is usually the same paint technique that I use for all Warmachine coloring that I do. Now in this video we're going to be using P3 paints. This is the Privateer paint brand, you know, like Citadel's for GW, this is for Warmachine. And we're going to use a few GW paints because they're just some paints that are impossible to find from the P3 line, and a few Coat d'Arms colors. Well, one Coat d'Arms color, because pretty much Coat d'Arms is P3. Everything that I've seen in terms of experiencing with them has told me that they're the same. And so I'm going to keep on believing that until I find proof otherwise that it's not true. And so we're going to go jumping right into how I paint Stormblades.
First, we base coat the model black. I used Abaddon Black for this, but any kind of paint will do for this job. And the first thing that we're going to do is paint all the metal bits on this model. We'll first start with pig iron. We take our dry brush, and we dab some of the paint onto the bristles. We then wipe most of this off onto a paper towel, and then with quick motions we lightly brush over the areas we want to be metal. Once we are done, we then move on to our next paint color, which is Quicksilver paint. And with this, we do an even lighter dry brush over the areas we just painted. Now, you don't need to clean your brush between the two colors if you don't want to. You could just go right in and start on the Quicksilver. And you want to focus more on the edges of the areas. This way, we do not cover up the pig iron completely and give us a nice contrasting color for the highlights. Then we take the brass paint from Coat d'Arms and dry brush over the areas we want to be brass, using the same paint technique we just used on the silver. Once this is done, we take armor wash and lightly coat the areas we painted. This will help blend the colors in and give us more defined shadows on the model. Once we are done, we take some black, I used Abaddon black for this, and touch up the areas that got metal paint on them that were not supposed to get this paint color on it. Now we can move on to the Cygnar's famous blue. We first put a base of Cygnar blue base on the armor plates, using a detail brush. Once the base is dry, we then add a coat of blue wash, making sure to apply this mainly to the rivets and the recesses of the blue areas. Once this is dry, I then take the model and apply it to its base. This way, it'll make adding highlights a lot easier and reduce how much handling the model gets when painting. Now we take some Cygnar blue highlights and add it to the rivets, edgings of the plates, and the centers of round or flat surfaces that you feel light would be touching on the model. We then make a 50-50 mix of the base and highlight color. I do this by filling my brush once with the base color and adding it to my palette. Then filled my brush again after cleaning it with the highlight and then mix the two on the palette together. I then take a fine detail brush and on the flat rounded surfaces that the highlight was applied, we trace the blue highlight with this mixed color. This will give the model a gradient effect so the highlight doesn't stick out as much and looks more natural. Next, we'll paint the padded suit. We'll take some Scorch Brown from Games Workshop and paint it all over the padded print areas of the model. Next, we apply a brown wash with a detail brush to help bring out the recesses of the model. Once this is dry, we use bootstrap leather to add highlights, using a fine detail brush. This is not the best choice because it's a bit on the bright side. It was all I could find at the time, but something more like Eye Drain Flesh or Gun Corpse Brown might look better than this. Next, we'll prep the yellow with Averland Sunset from Games Workshop using a detail brush. And what is great about this paint is that it will only take one coat to cover up the black and prep the surface for the actual yellow color. We then finish this up with some Ural Yellow, adding it to all the areas and leaving a little bit of the base coat in some of the folds to add some shadow effect. Next, we use Abaddon Black to touch up the straps on the arm armor and the belt and the back of the shield if it's needed. We then will move on to the face. We start with a base of midland flesh and using a detail brush. Next, we add a coat of flesh wash. This can be tricky. Too little of the wash and it will do very little to the model. Too much and it will lose all of forms of detail. If you find that you applied too much wash, simply clean out your brush and place it on a spot on the model and the brush will absorb some of the excess wash. When the wash has dried, you'll be able to see all the details in the model's face, making this step easy. We take your midland flesh and using a detail brush paint the nose and the cheeks, leaving the recesses and the top of the model's head untouched. With that, the base of the face is finished. We will next paint the teeth. We take Marrow White and with a detail brush apply to the teeth area. Next come the eyes. We first use Abaddon Black, and with a fine detail brush, we paint up the eyes of the model in black. So now he has these black orb doll-like eyes. We will then use Marrow White, and with a fine detail brush, place small dots in the corners of his eyes, and this will give the model the power of sight. Next, we glue the weapon onto the model. As you can see, we primed the weapon before we glued it on. We based the weapon black, other than the parts that we wish to paint gold. For that, we based this area in scorched brown. We first paint up the hands and the blade using the same techniques on the body of the model, with the blues and the silvers and the brown. The staff we painted black, and the hand grips we painted scorched brown, minus the brown wash. This way it doesn't stick out and look like it's made out of the same material as the padded armor. We will now go over how I paint the gold. We first use Rulic gold, and using a detail brush to have a better control, we dry brush the paint over all the scorched brown. When this is done, we see that parts of the gold kinda blend in, losing its detail. To help make them pop, we take armor wash and with a detail brush, apply small dabs of wash on the detail like the rivets and the small pattern at the base of the blade. Once the wash is dry, we take solid gold and place small dabs on the rivets. This will help make it stand out, along with the black ring around them provided by the wash. Now we move on to the final part, which is the lightning coils. We first use arcane base and paint up the coils. Don't worry if you get a bit messy and paint parts of the model that weren't supposed to be this color. That'll help provide a glow effect on the model. We then do a 50-50 mix of arcane blue and marrow white, and we use a fine detail brush to paint the center of all the coils. We then take pure marrow white, and with a fine detail brush, we paint a very thin line down the center of all the lightning coils. And right after we paint the marrow white, we take gloss varnish and paint up all the coils. We do this right away because it will help blend the white into the other colors and not make it stand out as much. The last thing you do is paint up the front arc of the model, and with that the model is done, and you are left with a finished model worthy of any battlefield.
And there you have it. It's a really easy paint technique. It takes about roughly, let's see, it took me a good 8-9 hours to paint the whole squad, and that was with a lot of breaks and dealing with paint drying because of the high humidity and heat over here. But on a good day, roughly a weekend, you should be able to get at least an entire squad done. Maybe in an entire day. If you have one day off, dedicate it to that, and you should be able to get a whole unit of Stormblades using this paint technique finished. And thank you all for watching. That's going to be it for now. I do have more Vets How-Tos on the way, plus a new video series that I'm going to try out later on, possibly, as well as another one of those Battle Report theaters continuing the story from Rise of the Magi. So, if you haven't already, subscribe, like us, that way you can keep on top of new things as they come out. Check us out on Facebook so you can join in some of the crazy stuff that we do there, like we just recently did a photo contest. We post updates as to when stuff is recorded, when it's going to be put out, and all that good stuff so you can stay up to date with us. There's a link in the description below. And again, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, comments, requests for other tutorials, leave a comment. And until next time, Fearless Gamers, take care.